Hey everybody, welcome into my first holiday related video of the season. From the really early days of my channel, it's been something that's excited me so much. Now back in the 2008 type time period, I feel like holidays were the time where you knew there would be gift sets, there would be palettes, and it was really exciting and a little more rare. Nowadays we're seeing palettes all throughout the year coming out and different things that give us a little better value here and there. But for me, still, the excitement is still there. I still think it's a time to get tremendous values on certain things. And what I wanted to do this time to kick things off was show you, here's what I've got. Here's what I've gone ahead and been intrigued enough to purchase. And I'll also comment on some of the things I'm not planning to try and review. So yeah, the idea here is that I'm gonna be trying these things, putting out a lot of more in-depth reviews, but this is gonna be a very traditional, like, here's what I got type haul. It's kind of like one of the will I buy it videos, but very definitive because I did definitely go ahead and buy some things, and then there's some stuff that I'm not so interested in. And it's still semi-early in the holiday release time frame, so I do expect to still see some other things down the line. There may be a part 2 of this video, but I would love to hear your feedback in the comments section as we go. I mean, do you agree with me? The things that intrigue me, do they intrigue you as well? Or are you like, what are you thinking picking that up? Or maybe you'll really disagree with some of the things I decided to skip. I mean, I'm open to any and all feedback. My mind can be changed, but clearly, as you will see, I've gone ahead and purchased some things, and some things I've even tried so far. So we're gonna start off chatting about Too Faced. I kind of love that they are so unapologetically holiday and Christmas themed with their holiday collections. That's the way it tends to be, and that's definitely the way it is again this time around. I feel like there are a lot of brands that, they're putting out their holiday stuff, but it's not necessarily covered in snowflakes and gingerbread men, But Too Faced is like, nope, we're going there with shade names, with concepts and everything, and I like that. I feel like as time goes on, the older I get, the more I kind of cling to like wanting the holiday traditions and having that time of year come around, and it just gives me all the good feelings. But here's a palette they've put out, and I feel like their gingerbread palette, also released last year, was sort of something that stood the test of time outside of the holidays even, because it was like a whole palette in sort of their standard chocolate bar shape and size, and now they've got the extra spicy edition. Now the extra spicy edition, here we go. We've got a lot of warm tones. It's like a warm tone lover's paradise here. If you like the corals, the peaches, the orangey shades, the pinks, shimmery golden bronzy type colors. I will say this color down here in the lower corner, that's just for show. That's one thing that really annoys me when brands stick a shade in a palette that's pretty much just to give some added flair to the overall look of the palette, but in actual application it doesn't show up looking anything like that. It just looks dark. It doesn't look like a deep teal or anything. So I see it and I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, I knew I really wanted to try it for the sake of trying and reviewing, but it really didn't wow me as much as the original gingerbread palette. That's the one that looks like this on the outside. Here you go. So we've got gingerbread and now gingerbread extra spicy. And frankly, I think the gingerbread spice palette, the one that came out last year, really has a heck of a lot more razzmatazz than the new one does. I mean, if you really look at them side by side here, it's a little tricky with the reflective background, but I feel like there's so much more punch in this palette. You do have bold gold type colors, really rich fuchsia, but what this palette has that this has none of is actually the plumminess. You've got really gorgeous purples, deeper purples, shimmery purples in here, and I think they play so nicely with the warmth that is contained within this palette. And last year I did do a very in-depth review. I compared this to some similar things. I kind of made you aware of some of the other options because it's not necessarily world's most unique item. But I have been very pleased with the color combinations that this presents, and I am one who enjoys the plums, and I like the way they play with the warmer tones. And here it's just more standard, straight up warmth. And I did a look with it the other day and I wasn't unhappy with it, but when I look at the overall possibilities, it's like, I think this goes a lot further. I think the original has the warmth from the new one plus plus splashes of color that make it, to me, a lot more interesting. The rest of this video may not be quite as review heavy as it's beginning here as far as, you know, the extra spicy palette, but I just feel a lot more impressed by the original than the extra spicy. I just don't think it's extra spicy. Now let's talk smaller. They've got the hot buttered rum palette. I really needed to go for this, and baby pups watching out there, we had a big conversation about buttered rum lifesavers in a past vlog. We've seen them release this size of palette several times already with their mini peach palette, which has been my favorite so far in this size. They did the shake your palms thing more recently, and now we have hot buttered rum, which is a pretty darn basic palette. I haven't had the chance to use this yet. I can't give much of a review on it other than the fact that I like the scent of it. I am getting actually a bit of that buttered rum lifesaver vibe, actually, and I like that there's kind of this honey mustard shade, this matte rusty color here. I feel like it's going to turn out some looks that I absolutely love, so I was for sure interested enough to pick that up and want to explore that more. And folks, we are just on the cusp of a lot of Too Faced chat here. I also got their Better Not Pout, but if you do, keep it glossy set. Last year, it was a set of melted matte lip colors, and now they're putting out these glosses, which really, it amounts to lip toppers. There's only one shade in here that I would actually realistically wear on its own. It's the shade that I have on right now. It's the one called Spice Cake. I do like the different scents, although I think the peppermint one smells oddly coconutty, but then we have eggnog, spice cake, and sugar plum. I'll probably dive into this more in a future video, but Spice Cake is the one where I feel like, okay, I'm comfortable wearing that. They're all loaded with sparkle, Spice Cake included, but something about the depth of the binding overall color that's in there, it's way, way more wearable. This looks like a really bright, like frosty pink, frosty nude, frosty white, and they could play well with other lip colors in more of a lip topper sense, but on their own, it's just like, what? So that's just the quick take on that little set. Now I want to tell you about what I am wearing on my full face right now. So eyes, cheeks, the highlight, the bronzer, all that. It's this set called Let It Snow Girl. How cute is this? I told you Too Faced is not hiding from doing an all-out holiday themed collection, and I think it's absolutely precious and adorable. And I love the concept of like this looking like sugar cookies. Maybe it's a little nostalgia here with all this like gingerbread cookie, sugar cookie, gingerbread house also theme with some of their things this year. But my mom is a huge baker. Sugar cookies are her like pride and joy. They're the thing that she's really known for making around the holiday season. And so I see this and I instantly think like, oh, you know, and these are the kinds of designs that like me and my sister might have actually put on cookies way back in the day when we would decorate them together on Christmas Eve. I was really drawn to it, okay? But I think sometimes with holiday collections, what it's easy to get carried away with is the cuteness, and then ultimately you step back and say, yeah, but it wasn't very practical. It wasn't very easy to take anywhere. Size-wise, it was just way too much about presentation and not enough substance on the inside. And this, I think, is one situation where so far I'm really liking what I see here, because this does not stay in this big format. They are all individual little palettes that come out here. You do get a mini mascara with this set, and this came from Ulta. I'll have links to everything below because I doubt I'll remember to mention everything. But now we've cut this whole palette down to a very reasonable size, and the way they work is they are magnetic, but they just slide sideways and then magnetize shut. So one of them is going to be your highlight and bronzer. It's Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer in there, and then the Angel Wings highlight. Chocolate Soleil has been around for years in their line. It definitely comes off deeper on the skin than it looks in the pan here. Angel Wings, I'm not sure about that. I think that may be just an exclusive color in this collection, but I'm wearing both of those today. They went on great. Your middle-sized palette here is a straight up blush palette. Oh, you know this is speaking to me. I love this shimmery shade here called Pink Christmas. That is the blush that I'm wearing today. Super gorgeous glowy blush. Then you've got 3 different matte options with Snow Kissed and Marion Bright and Christmas Christmas dream. So I think there's really something for everyone in the blush palette. Again, love how they magnetize shut. They just kind of pop shut when you twist them around. And then finally in your last cookie here, you've got the eyeshadow palette. And this is an unusual 19 shade palette. It's a mix of matte and shimmer. We've got, you know, bronzy kind of warm shades. With the exception of this color up here, not a lot of things going super duper warm like the extra spicy palette. Today I went with some of this berry shade in the crease, and I tried to kind of play up these teal and green colors. That green with shimmer is a little bit dry and took quite a bit of building up, but once you do get it there, I think it's sort of pretty on the lid. I used a little bit of the orangey shade on the outside. I think there are some really fun color combos to be had in this palette, and not a lot of actual shade overlap in terms of like duplicate colors in here. You are also getting like a pure silver straight up glitter in here as well, which definitely adds to the versatility also. So my kind of early take on this is the fact that they were able to take a palette concept that's very, very cutesy and actually make it pretty practical and functional, and like if you just want to, you know, pop out that blush palette and take it with you on a trip or whatever, or you only need the eyeshadow palette for something, they're all very small palettes, and I love the breakaway concept there. Now the other three Too Faced things are more just going to be a matter of me showing them to you, describing them, but I really don't have a review to provide because I haven't worn them yet. But this is the Christmas Star palette. This one I got from Ulta's website. I've got a couple more here from Ulta, and then one is kind of the biggie from Sephora. This one's going to come with a couple of extras. You get a lip color that's going to be very similar to actually those glossy shades in the lip gloss set that I mentioned. A very shimmery pink called Ginger Snap. It's not a duplicate of any of those shades, but it's just like similar concept with the glitter. And this is your Christmas Star. You have your little gingerbread girl right here up front, kind of closing everything together with a magnetic closure. And then all of your outer like star points are going to have a different face color, and then it's all eyeshadows in the middle. Of course, they got to make it all metallic, but here's what we're working with. You can see a couple of different highlights in different tones. We've got a rich bronzer that actually doesn't swatch out as deep as it looks in the palette, and then a couple of blushes. And then what I can kind of identify from these shadows here, I still have the clear sheet. I think that's something you're going to want to make sure you hold on to with this palette, because otherwise you have powders directly closing in on eyeshadows, so keep that in mind. But what I see here with these triangular shadows is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different quads. So I feel like we've got our kind of berry grouping here, we've got our taupey neutrals, we've got a little bit more goldeny copper bronze, we've got our purples, and then our earthy, you know, kind of green and olivey type section. And then everything surrounding is again just your pick. Here's your highlight options, a couple of blush options, and a bronzer. In just swatching it out, I noticed quite a bit of overlap in this just as far as the shades go. I mean, I feel like I am seeing every potential variation of rose gold in this selection. And the way they're seemingly sort of scrambled and mixed up, you know, it could kind of throw you a little bit to look at it and say, what exactly am I seeing there? How much overlap could there be? But when I see the colors together, I'm thinking there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6 pretty close executions of a rose gold type shade. And when we see that in palettes, when we see shades overlapping or a lot of colors being really, really close together, I think the creator of the palette probably knows that visually they're giving their palette kind of a look of continuity, and by sprinkling kind of a theme shade all around the palette, the outsider is seeing it and think, wow, that looks pretty, or there's something kind of tying it all together, when really you kind of get down to it and examine the swatches and you're like, there's a lot of shades here that are a lot alike. But I do love the presentation, with the exception of needing to hold on to the clear sheet. You know, clear sheets are kind of annoying to me, but it does come together for a very cute and overall pretty compact look considering everything that's in here. Again, I haven't worn that yet. There's not much I can say about how those shades execute on the eyes, but just some things that I'm considering right now. Also from Ulta, we have the Gingerbread Lane palette, and Too Faced, it seems like for the last few years, has been doing some sort of palette where there are multiple parts, and it kind of turns out to be a 3-part mini palette thing. And this is a pretty simple execution of it. There's just 3 palettes in this box. Granted, they're all super cute, but it's pretty simple here. They've got the to and from on the back, so really encouraging the idea of giftability. All of these claim to have a different scent. We have one that says berry pie, one that says banana bread here, and one that's said to be sugar cookie. And inside you've got 3 different color schemes. The one called Berry Merry Christmas here really does have a berry type scent, and you notice just a little bit of a pink vibe throughout the shadows. While it's overall neutral, there's kind of a pinky undertone there. I wasn't super impressed with the way this shade swatched, but the blushes in all of these are very vibrant and very pretty, and also very generously sized. Just judging by swatches, the palette that I really liked the most was the banana one. You have 3 really smooth, albeit very basic mattes here, and then a bronzy shimmer, and a really pretty neutral blush, but everything was so smooth and nice. This shimmer was just exactly what you would hope a shimmery texture would be. You know, super pigmented, soft, but not something that you've really got to work hard at building. I also like the scent on that one. I thought it was gently banana without being too in your face. And then the sugar cookie one is just like, okay, if you're gonna give this to someone, you gotta give it to that certain kind of person who likes 3 out of the 4 to be sparkly up top. I really can't say too much about these until I try working with them, but there's 3 shades that are very shimmery, if not sparkly, then a deep plum, and then a blush down here as well. All the blushes, like I said, seem very pigmented, really on point. The palettes are kind of a cardboard design, but there's a little squish to the top of them, and I think they're very cute. Nothing striking me immediately as like unique must-have status. I think if you sort of like the look of what's going on in here in the bananas palette, which was my favorite, lean a little more toward actually just getting the hot buttered rum and just getting that one small palette as opposed to committing to the 3-pack. Unless you've got a real good vision for the way you want to gift that. I mean, they could make cute stocking stuffers. Did I really just say stocking stuffer in September? Yes, I did. Here's the last bit from Too Faced, and this is the Christmas Cookie House Party, and this is from Sephora. This just came in the mail last night, so I haven't even fully swatched this guy out. But there are the most extras with this set. You're getting actually a mini gingerbread man, which I think is a great shade of their melted matte. A mini shadow insurance, which I think they should be really putting that with all these sets, especially if you're gifting to someone who's not like super makeup savvy. Having that eye primer is a really good idea. You also get a mini Better Than Sex mascara. And then you take this out, and it's kind of like building your own gingerbread house here. I think it's a really brilliant, cute concept. Just the thought that each element of this palette is going to magnetize together for your desired cuteness, but then for practicality's sake, when you just want to use one, it all breaks away and it's all fairly small. I'm excited to dig into this and start playing with it and see how this compares to the little Snow Girl one that I pointed out wearing today, because they're both kind of a similar idea with this breakaway design. I want to see which one's really best. But the largest part of your palette is going to be the eyeshadow selection. I'm seeing splashes of purple, a lot of coppery rose gold, again kind of tying things together in the middle. Not a lot of deep dark shades down here, but we do have a shimmery black down in the bottom. So I'm excited to see how some looks come together there. At the door we got our little gingerbread man saying hello, and then it's like this bonus palette with 4 all-out glitter shades that I was kind of swatching out yesterday, and they remind me of the glitters in their, not Keep It Rich, the Pretty Rich palette, or I don't know why the name is escaping me, but the palette that they put out that was sprinkled with various glitters. Those kinds of things, and then 2 very basic mattes in there with it. And then in the top you've got your face colors, and it's just blush, bronzer, and highlight up there. So it's all that, plus the primer, plus the mini mascara, plus the mini melted matte gingerbread. And again, they're cute freestanding palettes, or they all kind of magnetize into an actual gingerbread house, which I think, like, if I came up with that idea, I'd be over here patting myself on the back. Like, a gingerbread house makeup palette, great idea. And the idea of that more practical breakaway design where you can only take with you the piece that you need. Personally, I gotta hand it to Too Faced. I think that's a well thought out design of how can we take the cutesy but also make it pretty functional for people. So my stuff that I've gotten recently that's come from Sephora was that last palette I showed you, and now moving outside the Too Faced palette realm, I was interested in one of the Sephora favorites kits. This is the one called The Next Big Thing, and I felt like there was enough in in here that I was unfamiliar with that it would be really fun to try and review this. They say this is brands you need to know. They've got a little Natasha Denona like blush and highlight thing in here. I think this might be a liquid eyeshadow, a Violet Voss glitter topper. Yeah, they say right here. Honestly, that could be eyes or lips. I'm not sure. I have tried the Milk Cooling Stick. One of these Kaja full-size cheeky stamp blendable blushes. I guess there's a literal stamp in here. You put it down into the color and then blend it out. There's a pretty melt lipstick in here. The shade is called Old Rose, I believe. Yes, I do really like the melt lipsticks. There's something here from Artist Couture, which I've never tried this brand, and it's called the Diamond Lights Finisher in Spotlight Glitz. It's kind of about the size of an eyeshadow pigment, but I know this brand is really known for blinding bright highlights. And then from Farsali, you're getting the liquid glass, which I do already have, but I figured that and the little milk stick I could easily gift to someone else and try out some of the other things. So that was really the Sephora favorites item that caught my eye and made me take note. Also, this Kiss Me at Midnight set from Laneige. They've got the big size of their lip sleeping mask and then minis of the lip sleeping mask in mint choco and sweet candy. And I thought since I already have this one, I could gift that to somebody and test out these other two. But it's just a luxurious, wonderful thing to put on your lips before bedtime. I love like that sweet, kind of smooth, gently sweet, kind of strawberries and cream scent to the lip sleeping mask, and I've used mine a lot. So I know it's a formula that really works well and that I love as a nighttime lip treatment. But you know me and scents and flavors, I smelled these other two last night and I was like, ooh, those smell really great as well. As soon as I noticed that Hourglass had released some holiday things, I went straight to their website. I know sometimes their stuff can go fast, and I was really interested in the ambient lighting blush quad in Ghost. Ghost is the theme for everything. And they have a really interesting, different packaging here. It's kind of like this frosted matte plastic that the whole palette is in, but a straight up mirror finish on the lid. I feel like we're getting three really blushy shades here. And then the other day when I was wearing this, I felt like this operated a lot like a highlight on me. So you're getting Surreal Effect, Strobe Blush in Brilliant Nude, Strobe Blush in Lucid Glow, and a blush in Infinite Flush, it says. Over the past few years, I have kept up with Hourglass's larger, like 6-pan palettes that they put out around the holidays, and I was kind of getting to the point where I felt like, okay, I've experienced what they're gonna put out in this format. Like, I've seen enough, I've tried enough of it, and these palettes don't run cheap, and I just felt like I didn't need to go there again. I felt like what has excited me most in their palettes has been the blushes, so why not just get the 4-pack of blush and move on? But in a little bit of the anti-haul spirit of this video, like, their larger palette has dim light and diffused light, which I know I already have. It does come with a bronzer in there and a highlight and then a couple of blushes. So I respect the sort of multitasking ability there, but again, if over the last few years you've been buying these palettes, you've probably got some really similar mixes, you know, so I was more interested in just getting the blushes this time around. Speaking of blush, going back to Ulta, is it the only thing I've picked up from Tarte? This little set here called 9 Ways to Shine, I thought looked really promising. I have not used these yet, but guys, they seem right up my alley. This is for sure something a blush lover is going to enjoy, and I really like the way they packaged it. So we're talking magnetic here. Everything's gonna magnetize back into its stack, and it's gonna come out like that. And then the lid off the top one's just gonna open up and be a mirror. But like, this is your gold stack. You're getting a highlight and basically 2 blushes. One is matte, one is shimmery, and a very basic highlight, like super workable for any one type of setup there. I was really impressed with the feel of these as I was swatching them. Your next one has a rose gold finish. Let's open that up. I love the way they twist open. Like, you could just sit and play with that. This one is kind of a well-rounded mix of what appears to be like bronzer, blush, and highlight, don't you think? To me, that looks like a textbook bronzer color, so I'm excited to play with that. And lastly, we've got this charcoal one that seems to have the boldest color pops. I'm seeing 2 matte blushes there, and then this highlight that appears to be a little bit deeper, but yet, I don't know, it's very capable of catching the light. It has more of a rose gold look to it than the other two. But here's what I'm loving. The packaging design, first off, very eye-catching. refreshing and very like user-friendly. Also, I like the fact that there's no shade overlap. Each little trio has its own special shades and we're not seeing repeats, and I think at $35, it's a pretty good little deal there. So I was excited to get that. We've got a couple things here from Smashbox that honestly aren't really wowing me so much right now that I've gotten my hands on them. This little 3-pack of the, what do they call these? The Cover Shot palettes. Nothing super fancy or overly thoughtful with the design, but bottom line, you're getting 3 small palettes, and one is going to be your cheek palette, and I was immediately a little disappointed at the lightness of the bronzer because I just feel like, who is that really going to work for? I mean, maybe the fairest of the fair are going to get something out of that, but I'm really wishing it had some more intensity. And then your other 2 palettes here, one is going to be your little more flashy one with sort of some purples, a deep kind of shimmery navy, some grayish cool type tones if you're into that. Oh, and by the way, can you see that you can make it look like a shooting star? Look right up in here. This is very important. I need to make sure you see that. Okay. But this one, such a classic neutral selection, like so super basic. What I would say I'm observing here though is nothing overly warm in this set. And as you saw throughout a lot of the Too Faced stuff, I mean, there were lots of warm splashes. So maybe if you're craving some cooler options and you don't mind having like a super light bronzer in the mix, I don't know, maybe this might be a set that you want to look into. I'm just not immediately wowed, although the textures of the eyeshadows, to swatch them out, they felt beautifully soft and pigmented. I can't take anything away from that. I also got this little planetary cheek palette, they're calling it. I'm not sure why this stood out to me so much. I guess I was hoping really that this would end up being deeper and almost more like a bronzer, but what it really is just like a golden highlight, this shimmery kind of coral blush, and then I mean, honestly, the way it looks here is a split pan. I don't know if that was really intentional. One side a little more rosy, one side a little bit just brighter and whiter. But if you mix them all together, it's just like a soft pinky highlight. I feel like Smashbox is just trying to be Laura Geller here with this. And I don't know, it's not knocking my socks off. It's not going to be the kind of thing I think to reach for a lot because it's lacking a little versatility. I was just hoping that that one shade on the left would be more like a bronzer, less like a highlight, since they've already given you a highlight in there. Becca. Becca is putting out kind of a multitasking palette here. Can you see that there's glitter? You just shake the glitter around in there. It's called Pop Goes the Glow Champagne Pop Face and Eye Palette. So they're giving you champagne pop, but then they're also throwing in shades called caramel, truffle, berry, and pink cream. And it says all shades can be used for a pop of color on face, cheeks, and eyes. And I have worn this and like put that on as my blush, use these other shades as eyeshadows. And this is definitely, you know, it's a gorgeous highlight. Maybe if you've never tried champagne pop, this would be actually a nice value and a nice way to get that, plus some other nice glowy Becca things because everything does have glow. But if you've already got champagne pop, I wouldn't say you absolutely need it for this palette because everything else is just honestly some kind of common, just gentle shimmers that you'll find in a lot of other eyeshadow palettes. I wasn't like gaga over the multitasking nature of this, and again, I wish there would have been another deeper shade that could have maybe acted like bronzer, and then it might have gotten me going just a little bit more, but otherwise, to me, it looks like a palette full of highlights with a shade that could be kind of a cranberry eyeshadow or blush. Pure put out something that really caught my eye. I don't know if I've ever really been a big reviewer of the Pure stuff at holiday time, but this crystal clear palette, yeah, it's a little foreshadowing here. There are crystal clear plastic sheets that you're gonna have to keep track of, but it's kind of a 3-part fold-in palette. They call it Ultimate Face Palette. It was throwing me back to that Smashbox Photo Op Mega palette. Years back, they put out a palette that just had absolutely everything in it. And I just remember that being the freaking best. I got it as like a QVC Today special value, and I felt like it was the biggest steal of all time. But here's what's in this palette. We have one panel of purely matte eyeshadows. You got those 3 in the middle that are a little bit larger sized, but it's neutrals with a few kind of interesting, more poppy type colors. In the middle, we've got sort of a face section where across the top you've got like contour powders and then blushes and then some really generously sized highlights taking up that bottom part. And then over on this side is a bunch of shimmer, including a couple of actual glitters here in the bottom, but many shimmery midtones. I'm seeing multiple multiple takes on the coppery kind of rose gold vibe. So I really need to get those swatched out and see how closely they all compare. But at first I had done a look mostly focusing on the mattes, and I was really happy with that side so far. So to be continued with that. There's a lot to play with. The one thing I don't like is the fact that you are going to have to keep your sheets on there, which are just tacked down. Like, why couldn't they have really affixed them somehow? They're flimsy, they're really thin, and this side has to close down on the middle, so that's kind of a bummer there. That's why I joke about the name being crystal clear, but I need to play with this some more, see how versatile the looks could be, and see if it's really as good of a value as it appears to be. Last couple of things here are from BareMinerals, both purchased off of Ulta's website. I got the Bare Glow Face Palette, and again, all this stuff, did I ever say? I bought all this. This is all a genuine haul. The look on the outside is super duper basic, like matte pink, but then kind of textured around the edge, almost giving me the thought of like when water kind of rushes up over the sand and then leaves kind of a ripply look. But you're getting their pressed faux tan over here, and then graceful rose and the highlight in free. Faux tan is kind of a contour shade I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. In the loose version of faux tan, I feel like a tiny bit goes a long way. In the pressed version here, particularly in this palette, I feel like I actually needed to build that up quite a bit. Need to play with the blush and highlight a little bit more, but I love a multitasking face palette. And then finally, this set called Glam Packed, I thought seemed to be an amazing value. And once I got it home, I'm even more convinced that $46 is a great value for this. You're getting an actual makeup bag in this nice plummy shade. Then on the inside, full-size mascara here. This is the Lashtopia mascara, which I've not yet tried. Really surprised to see the full-size mineral veil in there. I was not expecting that. They're giving you the Skinsorials Skin Longevity Vital Power Infusion. I think it's some sort of serum. And then an entire palette. And the palette is kind of bookended with blushes on each side. And then you've got a very basic, I think very giftable selection of eyeshadows in here with your deep colors, some nice mid-tones and sort of peachy gold and taupe, and then a couple of great highlights as well. It seems to be a well-balanced palette, albeit a very basic palette, but the textures were so soft to swatch out. I haven't worn it yet, but I just have swatched it. But I just thought for all the full sizes in there, you know, you're getting that big palette, the full mineral veil, the full mascara, the extra little skincare thing, plus a dope looking bag. I don't know, it seemed like a pretty nice gift idea to me. So that's what I've got so far, you guys. I don't really wait around for PR to come out. I think around the holidays it's kind of inconsistent who may send out PR samples, so I just go for what I'm interested in. To comment a little bit more on some of the things I chose to skip, from Stila, they've got a set of their liquid eyeshadows, and I know I typically talk about how great that formula is if you want to use glitter. I think the Stila glitters are great. For me though, this time around, I feel like I've got enough. I've gotten that type of set for a couple years, and I don't think I need any more. Plus, CoverGirl has more recently come out with some things like that, and I'm not having a longing feeling as I see that. Also, from Tarte, they've got from Ulta something called the Gift and Glam Collector's Set. It just wasn't calling to me. This is a very similar idea to what they've done before. You've got kind of a bulky outer packaging filled with several mini palettes, and yes, it does make it travel friendly with the thought that you can take one out, but altogether I can envision the overall size there. It's also housing a mini mascara and a mini lip color, and I don't like it when those things are included within a big palette. It makes it unnecessarily large. Those are little extras that could be included outside the palette, like the way Too Faced is doing it, and then when you inevitably run out of that mascara mini after a month or so, like, you don't just have blank space in there. It's just weird to me that they do it that way. And just the look of it, it's not really exciting me that much. I'm just like, I'm not going there this time. Also, they've got a lip gloss set called the Lip Glossary. It looks like 7 of their mini Busy Gal glosses, which I tested the full sizes that were sent to me months ago, and there were a couple that I thought were really pretty, but a lot of them turned out to be just very sheer, and so I have a hunch that that's going to be kind of a sheer set of glosses as well. I feel a little uneasy, honestly, doing this little anti-haul, because part of what I don't like about anti-hauls are the assumptions assumptions. We don't really have our hands on something, so we don't truly know what the heck we're talking about. But we're just working off of, I guess, the vibe we get when we're online shopping. Also from Tarte over to Sephora's website, their Winter Wonder Glam Luxe Eye Palette. So this would be their big holiday offering. And again, I see it. I see an overload of light to medium colored shades. Tarte tends to be a little bit bulky with their palettes, and they tend to include too many extras on the inside, which I think is just unnecessary. Again, I respect the fact that Too Faced has really gone out of their way to put out some cute stuff, but make it ultimately such a small like footprint in your makeup bag or on your desk when it's all said and done. I also decided to pass on the Give Me More lip set. That's something I've purchased for several years, but looking at what's in there, it's not that I don't like the look of it, I've just tried a lot of what they're offering. Outside of that incredible roller gloss, which I got one of those earlier in the year, really didn't like it. A lot of what's in here looks good. They're giving you a Sugar Rose Balm, they're giving you a Laneige sleeping mask, a Charlotte Tilbury lipstick, a Too Faced lipstick, a Fenty lipstick. I mean, some good stuff is in there. It's just, I'm not really craving the sampler idea there because I've already tried so much of it. In addition to that, I also pointed out the larger Hourglass palette that I decided to skip on. I'm sure there's going to be more as time goes on and more holiday stuff trickles out. I will tell you, I'm really surprised I haven't seen anything holiday-wise from Bite yet, because they're usually really quick with like a 4-piece lip set, and that's usually the first thing I review for the holidays, but I haven't seen anything out so far. So more to come, I'm sure. I really want to hear in the comments section what you're most excited about. Do you disagree or agree with me on any of these points? Let me know. More videos to come, and I so appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Bye.